Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Brandy and I bring you witch history and makeup twice a week. So if that sounds awesome to you, hit that subscribe button if you don't mind. But today is an interesting one. It's definitely different from any one that we've done before. But first off, let me apologize for this, okay? My favorite curling iron that I've had for like 12 years broke. Yeah, I'm legit sad, legit heartbroken over this curling iron. Okay, moving on. We're going to be starting in World War II today. Yeah, we're going way back, but not too far back, and we're going to be in England. So, while I tell these stories, I put makeup on my face, and then I'll list below what I use if you're interested. And I just kind of do stuff with my hands like makeup and then tell you guys the story. So if that sounds awesome to you, stick around. And I actually have something kind of fun at the end too that I'm going to share with you guys. So yeah, stick around. And yeah, let's get this party started. You know you're an adult when you're upset about a curling iron. I'm just saying. This is madness right here. Okay. Anyways. So, like I say, today we're starting in World War II. And we're going to start a very specific incident that happens that sparks this whole entire deal. What happens is, all right, on November 25th, 1941, I almost said the 26th, I almost got it right. I'm trying to get my memory back. So during World War II, there was in England a ship called the Barnum, something like that. Now, this ship had a lot of sailors on it, okay? And this is during the time where everybody's fighting everybody. I mean, it's called World War II for a reason, right? And 800 Navy men end up getting, if you jump, I mean, in this kind of situation, if you jump, you're going to pass. If you don't, you're going to pass. I mean, it's kind of like, the inevitable's coming because they get torpedoed or whatnot. And 800 soldiers go down, 800 Navy men, and nobody, they kind of keep it on the low for a while. The media does. Nobody says anything about this ship, okay, for 2 months, except for the woman that we're going to be talking about today, who announced it before the papers did. And her name was Helen Duncan, aka also known as Nellie, okay? And so that's who we're talking about, Nellie Duncan. I swear, every time I hear the word Nellie, I always think of Little House on the Prairie. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm really old. I'm probably really old. And y'all are like, what? Little House on the Who? That's my bad. My bad. I forget how old I am. Anyway. And so, yeah. And she was born in the United Kingdom. She had parents and they weren't all that great. Of course, she had a Presbyterian upbringing, and which means she didn't get to do much. There wasn't much fun things for them to do. Any kind of entertainment was outlawed. The Presbyterians are really, really strict, like really strict. So you can imagine she grew up in a really religious household, right? She also claimed that she had visions and that she saw ghosts. Like in her school years, she would tell this like to her classmates and stuff like that. She'd be like, "Yeah, I can talk. I talk directly to God," and like basically saying there's an open line of communication. Like he talks back and she talks to him. She was becoming a medium. Now, keep in mind that not shipwreck. They got blown up as we go forward, okay? So anyways, our girl, Nellie, was born on November 25th on 1897. So, like I say, World War II was not that long ago, and this woman was tried under the Witchcraft Act, the one that we've been talking about like almost every single week, the one that was made in the 1700s. Yeah, that one. And this happened in the 1900s. So it's kind of bonkers in that way, but she's actually the last woman to be tried, or last person to to be tried under the Witchcraft Act of, what was it, like 1753 or something like that. And this is in England in the 1900s, okay? But don't worry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I do that, man. So Nellie ends up getting pregnant at the age of 17. And as we know, like I've told you guys, she grew up in a Presbyterian household. And so this really wasn't that great. Her parents disowned her. Yep. And we don't know who the father is. She never said who the father was. She never said how it happened. Like maybe she got, SA'd, or maybe it was just like a whatever, but she never said. So she ended up having a child at a very, very young age. And then she gets married. And this guy, he's an old war vet. Okay, he's not old, but he's a war vet, and he's getting some money from the government because he was in a war or whatnot, and so, but he also was a cabinet maker. So they get married, and her last name becomes Duncan. So it becomes Duncan. Well, both of them have they're both chronically ill, and it could possibly be because of the way they were brought up. I'm not really sure. Now, her husband, Henry, full-on supported her spirituality. She felt like she was a medium. She could see ghosts. She had prophetic dreams. She said all these things. And so he was fully supportive of that. Well, like I told you guys earlier, they aren't the most well people. Like when I say they're not well, like they're very sickly. And they end up having 8 children. Now, at one point, they tell Nellie, if you get pregnant again, there's a possibility you could pass, because she had so many complications. Like I can't imagine. Their contraception was like against the rules back then. There was like none of that. I mean, I'm sorry, but what goes on in the bedroom, I don't think anybody else is going to know. So if you do what you do, God, that was a little much. I know. I apologize. But, I'm just saying, I can't believe that was banned back then, especially with everything that was going on. Like, World War II, like England was afraid every single day that they were going to get bombed. You know what I mean? And then they end up hearing from this lady that, she knows that all of them have died, and so that's kind of what sparks us to where we are going. Both of their healths are going to shit, but Henry's is worse, to where he can't work anymore. So the only thing that he's drawing is from the government. So Nellie is having to work 2 jobs. She's working in a jute factory, and she's working in a factory where they bleach and do things with clothes. And you can imagine bleach, and back then they probably didn't have many regulations on that type of deal. You can't just sit there and huff that all day. You're going to get sick. I'm just saying. So basically what I'm saying is they had to come up with a way to make money, because she couldn't keep going to the bleach factory and doing all the things they wanted her to do. You feel me? She was getting sick and things like that. So what she started to have were seances. Yes, she did. She started having seances. And I thought that was super, super cool. Until you find out what she goes on to do with it, people that have power, I full on believe that she could see ghosts and speak to things like that, but then to take it to the level she took it to, okay, B, you're saying too much. This is where she made a dark room in her house, okay, where she would hold seances. And during these seances, people would come from all over to do her seances, because you got to think of it like this. This is during a time of war where a lot of these women's men they don't know where they're at, and so they're looking for help. They're looking for somebody to show them a little bit of the light, that everything's going to be okay. And, and that's kind of how she started doing it. She was contacting spirits, and she was even contacting people's past animals and things of that nature. She was contacting all this stuff, and she was doing it by admitting first she was going into trances and things like that. Then she started emitting ectoplasm out of her mouth. Now, what is ectoplasm? That is basically their way of saying that that's how a spirit is showed through. And so she had a room in her house that was the seance room. It had to be a dark room because if any light was to show on the ectoplasm, then it would go away, you know. And so, but it also left it open to being fake. Okay. So everybody hears that, you know, Nellie can do this. She's emitting this ectoplasm out of her mouth. You know, she's speaking. She has all these spirit helpers that are helping her. One of them's name is Peggy. You know, Peggy is the one that's helping her do all this stuff. You know, so yeah, it gets kind of crazy, but so that's where we're at. You know, she's doing seances for people to just kind of help ease them and you know what they're going through. You know, they don't know where their husband or their brother or their son is, you know, and so they go to her for help. And of course, they pay her for this. Now, most of her clients thought that it looked like muslin cloth. Like, muslin is this really, really light cloth. Like, it's just made out of, I mean, it's super light. So anyway, it looked like that's what she was emitting out of her mouth. And so they had some skeptics come around because there was a spiritual society, and yeah, they were wanting to know if this was true, if she was actually emitting ectoplasm, because it was kind of their job to go around and make sure people weren't, you know, doing fraudulent readings for people. And so this man ends up going to one of her seances, and he watches, and he's like, that she's spitting out cloth. That's got to be, she's spitting out something in her mouth. She's literally regurgitating something out of her mouth. Because now, before these seances would even begin, they would check her body, kind of like the witch mark thing. But it would be females. They'd be checking her body, checking the cabinets in the room, making sure there's nothing hidden anywhere. But unbeknownst to them, she'd swallowed it, and she was going to regurgitate it back up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a guy named Harvey Metcalf went to one of her seances where there's never any lighted photography allowed, but he took a picture anyway. And what did he reveal? He revealed the muslin cloth that's coming out of her mouth that you can definitely tell is muslin cloth, and her friend Peggy, who is like a stuffed vest with like some kind of face on it. Okay. Yeah, as you can see in the picture here. That is fraudulent behavior, you know? Okay, so in the 1930s, she ends up having to go to Edinburgh and London to be actually tested. They're like, we want to see you. We want to do all these things. We want to see if this is actually real. So come on over here. Let's do it. Okay, so Nellie gets to the place where she's supposed to get all these things done, right? They're supposed to run all these tests on her. And she's doing pretty good, you know, so far. They're doing the strip search, and she knows they're not going to find anything. And, you know, they're looking for marks on her and things like that. And, you know, she's fine. Until they ask her to take an x-ray. She wiles out completely, utterly, goes nuts. Goes running out into the street, starts like holding on to this post and like yelling and screaming, and is in total, absolute chaos. She is losing her mind, okay, in the middle of the street because they asked her to do an x-ray. Now, her husband runs out there, Henry. He's like, I gotta go out there and help her. I gotta console her in some way. There's something going on. Something's wrong with her, you know? So he goes out there and he consoles her, and everything seems to be okay. And then she's like, okay, you know, I'll do the x-ray. Well, when they go back in and old Henry comes in, they're like, hey, can we search you? Yeah. She passed it to him on the street, but he would not allow them to search him. So we can only conclude that she handed him the gauze, or the muslin cloth, the cheesecloth, on the street that way. Because then she went back in and she's like, okay, you can do the x-ray now. I'm fine. You can do the x-ray. I'm sorry, but I read all that. I was like, she's really going above and beyond the call of this. You feel me? Now, there were parts of the London Spiritual Society. Some of them did believe her. Okay. So for a while, they were believing that, that she was spitting this up. I guess she took the x-ray, and of course, the ectoplasm is gone. And, anyway, so she goes back to doing seances and stuff at her house. Everything is totally chill. She's good to go. Well, then she predicts the ship. Yeah, she does. She predicts the ship before anybody else knew about it. The media had kept it on the DL because it's World War II, and they don't want their enemies to know that they just got. You know what I mean? They're trying to keep everything on the down low, but you got to think, something that big happens. Word of mouth is all you need. Word of mouth. So she could have heard this on the street. You know what I mean? She could have heard it from anybody. But she says this, and because she announces it before the public, this gets the cops interested. They're like, okay, now how did you know that this ship was going to explode? Like, are you a spy? Were you in on this? Like she kind of dug herself into a little hole, kind of a big asshole. So another thing that she said was that 2 of the sailors on that ship were alive. Now, as we said in the beginning, there were no survivors, okay? But she was trying to tell some people that there were survivors. And this is how the cops end up, they raid her. Yeah. They raid the seances, and they're like, you're telling fraudulent information because those 2 people both died. And we have that as a fact. It's the Navy. They keep record of all that. And so they were going to try her under the Vagrancy Act, which is, for fake fortune telling and things like that. But then they decided on February 8th of that year, they were going to try her under the 1735, I got the 2 numbers mixed up, Witchcraft Act. So this made it so that anybody, that they could go after anybody she conspired with. So they're still trying to say that she's like a witch, but she's also maybe conspired with somebody, and that's how she knew about the boat. Even though if these people had common sense, and that happened 2 months ago, people have already heard about it. They're just waiting for the actual announcement. You know what I mean? Basically, they went after her because under the Witchcraft Act, if you're charging money for and giving out fraudulent information, treasure hunting, or trying to heal people and stuff like that for money, then you were charged with the Witchcraft Act. And because the media had played this up, imagine how mad the media is right now at her for, dropping the bombshell that they wanted to drop. But, she did it anyway because she had already heard about it, and she probably felt like, she was just trying to help heal these people. Like I say, she always stayed in her spirituality, y'all. She was very connected to God. Very connected. But I think there towards the end, she wasn't as connected as she thought. I kind of feel like, even Jim Jones had like good intentions in the beginning. He did. Like I've watched so many documentaries. But it seems like when you're faking something like that, you're going to get in trouble for it. Like, come on, what are you doing? It's obvious in the pictures that she's spitting up cloth. It's so obvious. Ectoplasm is like, what was it, Insidious, I think? I can't remember. I'm always throwing movies at you guys, so that's my bad. But, it's like a goo almost, It's not like cloth. So I think it just brought comfort to people. Maybe to have somebody to talk to and think that, this is actually entertainment, And so she could have chalked it up to that. But they end up taking her in and they put her on trial under the Witchcraft Act. So she's got to defend herself. And in this case, of course, it's the 1900s, so you get a lawyer. And her lawyer was a spiritualist, just like her. So, I'm reading, I'm thinking, oh, this is great. He's a spiritualist, she's a spiritualist, this is going to go good. No. This man wrecks her, okay? Her own lawyer freaking wrecks her. And she can't say anything in her defense, of course. So basically what he says, that her seances had no spells, no incantations, and no demons were being raised. She wasn't holding Sabbaths. Sabbaths. She wasn't doing that. She wasn't trying to bring any devils or demons in. She wasn't even using any herbs, which, point taken, that makes a witch, supposedly, back then, if you had knowledge of herbs and were healing people and things of that nature. But, she didn't use plants. She didn't use anything except for, the cheesecloth, the muslin cloth that was coming out of her mouth. There was no deaths. She didn't poison anybody. Only thing she did was believe that she could talk to other spirits in other worlds. And so he believed she possessed mediumship, but he treated her with disrespect. And this is what I don't understand. I don't understand this part. He even produced 40 witnesses who agreed to what I just told you guys, that her seances had no spells, no incantations, none of that. He chose the wrong defense. He claimed that what spiritualists believe, everything was true. He should have just kept that part out, point blank, period. You don't need to be telling everything about your spirituality to everybody. Just keep that in mind, okay? He said there was no death. This spiritualist lawyer. Human spirits were in another world and could speak with the living through the bodies of mediums. Now, why would you start a witch trial with that? That's like okay. So anyway, he goes on to disrespect her more by saying that she is kind of a conduit pipe. She's a big fat woman. Yeah, he says that. She was fat and she was very unhealthy, but we've all established that she's unhealthy. I mean, she worked in a bleach factory, and they also say that she did some drugs and stuff too, like opiates. But I imagine her being in that much pain and somebody that spiritual, taking on spirituality like that is really, it will take a toll on your body. But at the same time, she's regurgitating stuff. That's not good for your body to be swallowing cloth, and then she sits there and then she goes through her whole thing or whatever it was that she did. Come on. I mean, give me a break. But it is what it is. So he calls her that, calls her uninspired, says she's a nobody. This trial lasted 80 days. 80 days of her listening to her lawyer talk about how awesome spiritualism is and how fat his client is. Okay. And she can't say nothing. She cannot say anything in her defense in this case. Oh, it makes me if they should convict her because it involves deep thinking on the part of Miss Duncan, which you may think is total and absolutely ridiculous. That's why they shouldn't convict her, is what he said. Basically, because she's too stupid to be convicted. Oh, we have heard that before in another video, haven't we? Yeah, we have. So you're probably wondering, B, what about the prosecution? Well, the prosecution brought up the ship. That was their thing. They were like, we don't know how she knew about that, but she knew about that. And, we need to know how, and we need to know why, and we don't accept the fact that a spirit told you that, even though they were just really trying to save face, the fact that they didn't release the news right away because, you know, they didn't want they didn't want the enemy thinking they had gotten on them. You know what I mean? And so anyway, poor Nellie has to endure this trial, this witch trial in the 1900s in England for 80 days. And they convict her in 24 minutes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Are y'all ready for the icing on the cake? This man, her lawyer, accidentally let slip she's been convicted of this before. Okay, bro, why don't you just tell us more new stuff that we don't know? You know? Like, what? Okay, so he says that and says that she's a repeat offender because in 1933 she was convicted of fraud in Edinburgh for representing spirits as like stuffed vests and stuff. That's why I'm talking. I told y'all about the guy taking the flash picture and it shows the doll and the gauze coming out of her mouth. Yeah, she got convicted for that, for the ectoplasm, and it's not real. They actually took a sample of it, and it is like, it's muslin cloth, which is made in a certain way. It had like egg in it, egg whites, like I guess the toilet paper they had back then, and some other things. And that's how she made this ectoplasm, you know. And they actually have a piece of it at the Cambridge Library, I believe, or Cambridge University in England. So they have it like in a little, whatever you call it, a glass jar, shit. So at the end of her trial, she is sentenced. Of course, she's pretty much done for. She says, "I have done nothing. It's all lies," quote unquote. That's what she says. Then she went to prison for 9 months. Don't worry, they didn't kill her. No, we're a little bit too advanced now for that. Actually, that's not so much true in other countries, but in England, it is the case, and of course, that's the case here. But yeah, they put her in jail for 9 months. She only served 6. And she was the last person to be tried under the Witchcraft Act, like point blank period. All of her spiritualist friends, they were really upset that she got put in jail because they all believed her. They knew maybe the ectoplasm wasn't real. Obviously, it wasn't. But her spirituality and her being so convinced that she can talk with spirits and see ghosts, that's absolutely a possibility, you know? I'm just saying, it is. So people were really riled up that she had gotten put in jail, you know. But she's released after 6 months, and she still continues to do her seances. She dies in 1956. Okay. Of course, because she always had really bad health, you know. I cannot talk and do this at the same time. Can you tell? So poor Nellie, she still does her seances even when she gets out of jail. And then she passes away in 1956 at age 59. So that's actually really young, in my opinion. I mean, it's sad that she had a gift, but she had to take it to extremes. But she's really only doing this because she needed the money. She needed the money. Her husband wasn't working. She couldn't work in a factory job anymore. Both of them, their health was shot. They had 8 kids. 8. That's so many kids. And some of their kids end up getting killed or got like a missing eye and things of that matter. I mean, this lady had so much bad luck in her life that it's amazing that her spirit stayed so strong throughout all of this. You know what I mean? I mean, it's mind-blowing that she still was a firm believer in God, that she was very firm in her spirituality. She believed she could talk to ghosts and spirits. And hey, she had been saying that since childhood. So I believe that 100%. But why take it so far as to regurgitate freaking ectoplasm out of your mouth that's really cloth? And then they say that her health was bad. Let me think on that for just a second. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just not good. Not good for you at all. Especially if you're doing multiple seances a day. And, there's like acid and things that come up. I can't imagine how her throat felt, like her insides. Like, I mean, no wonder she was taking opiates all the time. You know what I mean? I have to show y'all something before I put my lipstick on because it's very special. Yes, I did. I got the Bailey Sarian bag. Yes, I could not help myself. Okay, Bailey, I love it. Awesome. And also, I had to grab me a lipstick too. And I got her Lilith. And I think it's gorgeous. I haven't got to use it yet, so here we go. But anyway, I had to throw that. That's the little surprise. I wanted to throw that out there to y'all. I just had to get that little clutch and one of her lipsticks because I think she's awesome. She's like somebody I aspire to kind of be and look up to. So, anyways, now as late as 2018, okay, 3 women were tried for fraud in Canada. Okay. Oh, you are sexy. You are hot. Not me, the lipstick. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Oh, Miss Bailey, you did a great job, honey. Yes, you did. This is Lilith. Meet Lilith. I love it. So yeah, there was 3 women in Canada that were tried as witches as soon as 2018. Yeah. In Southern Africa, Indonesia, and India, if I can talk today, hundreds of women are murdered as witches every single year. That's something I did not know. And I kind of feel like I should have known that. Not everywhere is the United States, We're free to do our religious expressions here. In other countries, it's not so much like that. It's still so much not like that. So, everything is a trial by media, especially with the last couple ones I was telling you guys about. It's word of mouth, it's hearsay, it's just awful. But back to our girl Nellie, old Nellie. Girl, why did you have to go and start faking it? You know what I mean? That's I'm not trying to compare her to Jim Jones and people like that, but even he started out with like really good intentions and then it just spiraled from there. The power got to his head and it spiraled. And so I feel like this is I understand why she did it because she needed that money. She needed the income. They had no way to make any other money. And so she was going to use her spiritualism. But then to go and fake stuff as entertainment, but passing it off as real is just not a good idea. That is not a good idea at all. So I'm glad she didn't get burned or anything though. Because, we're in different times now where they don't do that. But this one was very interesting to me. Because I remember, I've seen pictures of seances and the ectoplasm and all that stuff. And I know y'all have seen movies with it in there. But there's never been any solid evidence that it actually exists or that it actually happens. The only little snippet they have of what she was spitting out is, like I say, just a piece of muslin cheesecloth, something she made up and swallowed and then would just throw it back up and say that her spirit guide Peggy was the one that was telling her everything, even though Peggy was a stuffed doll. But one can argue that doll might have had a spirit in it. That could have been the actual representation of the spirit, and that's how she communicated with it. We don't know. That would make sense to me. Why having the doll? But why throwing up the stuff? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, and the only reason why they charged her under that act is because the media went nuts. And we talked about the media last week. Media hypes people up and they get people scared. And it's sad because I'm glad they, she continued to do her seances. I don't think she was still regurgitating the stuff. I think she was actually letting spirit talk through her, as she should have been from the beginning. That's how she should have been. So, and then she wouldn't have gotten in so much trouble when she started talking about that ship that nobody knew about yet. Supposedly not. Anyway. So that is our story for today, you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm in love with this lipstick, by the way. I mean, I can't get it. I'm going to sit here and look at myself in the mirror for a while. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, if you haven't subscribed, please do. I try to put these out at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week if I come across something interesting. And yeah, I love you guys. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. And yeah, I'll see you guys on Thursday.